So a person wanting to learn hears stories like this and believes that it's possible, yet is the way to hear nettle and to be able to communicate with plants in the like just through starting to bring them into your lives and use them? Is it gardening? Is it as simple as that?
Simpler. Breathe.
That is simple.
Right. What are we breathing in when we breathe in?
Their breath.
Their breath. And when we breathe out?
We breathe to them.
We give it to them. So it's a giveaway dance. Now certainly every cell in the body turns over in a 7-year period, but every atom in the body is replaced in a 7-day period.
Wow. Wow.
So if you consciously take in the atoms of oxygen that are being given off by the plants, within a week you can have made yourself so much of the plants that you will not just hear them, but be them.
I've never heard. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've had thousands and thousands of people start with this simple exercise. Choose a green ally for 10 days, for 10 minutes a day. Sit with your plant and breathe with it. The apprentices who live with me, their green ally assignment is to breathe with the plant, and then they have a variety of other assignments. The only way they can fail their green ally assignment is to look in a book.
my experience too is that when I have people do something like that and don't look in books but sit with the plant for a while, that they always tell me that and more what's in a book, and things that people have told me in those exercises I've tried to use the herbs for, and it's worked wonderful.
As I always say to people, if the plant tells you something and it's not in the book, the plant's right. You look in herbals published like from, say, the 1960s back. All of them are going to tell you Hypericum perforatum is the worst possible herb to use for anyone who's depressed. Now, how did we suddenly turn around and decide it's the herb to use for depression? Because myself and numerous other people talk to the plant. It grows right out in the sun. Sunshine. All right. Now, I always say, you're married to some brute of a husband who gets drunk, comes home, beats you up, you have more children you can care for, no money, you feel trapped. You know what? St. John's wort tincture, it's not going to touch your depression.
Right.
You feel blue. You feel like, oh my, what is it all about? St. John's wort can really help. You feel, I am so sad, there's not enough light in the world. Now we definitely have sunshine in a bottle for you. So, those kinds of things, but also that the plant said, take in this heat and let it relax and loosen things up and let it go into the nerves and kill viruses. Because heat kills viruses. And Hypericum, it turns out to be a tremendously strong antiviral. As a matter of fact, it went all the way up into human drug studies, looking at it as a drug to stop HIV, which it kills. Problem is that the part of it that kills HIV makes you so sensitive to the sun you can't even sit next to a window, apparently. So this is why it never became a drug.
We use St. John's wort, the oil, we find it's a good sun protector oil. And
amazing, isn't it?
And ever since my kids were babies, and we've been using it. And I told people this in an email a couple of weeks ago, and I got so many people email me back saying, "It can't be used as that. It's photosensitivity." And when
well, yin and yang. Again, we're saying this is a plant that grows in the sun. So when we take it into us, it brings the sun into us. When we put it on the outside of us, it allows us to be out in the sun. Let me tell you a fun letter that I got from a woman. She said, I heard you say, the Hypericum oil. It was great sunscreen. And I thought to myself, yeah, maybe for Susan. Maybe for people who aren't, like milky white and red or blonde hair. Yeah, right. So she says, but I was at a big family gathering and, gosh, we were down to the last little bit of sunscreen. I thought, well, let the children have it. I'll just burn. And then I remembered I had some Hypericum oil with me, she said. And I went and I put the Hypericum oil on. She said, I was the only person in my family who didn't burn. She said, that really works. I said, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't, put hypericum oil out and go take my clothes off and lay in the sun for 4 hours, You also have to use, a little caution. Yeah. But I also find, and I'm curious to know if you find that the more I put it on, the more my skin learns to be okay with the sun.
Exactly. And then when I go to a place I've never been before, like higher up in an elevation or to Hawaii, it doesn't really work that well for me, but it works for me where I live.
Oh, interesting.
Really well. But I'd have to get used to it again.
You have to get used to it again.
It's like a new relationship with the sun.
Yes. And that's what you're saying is, this is about relationships. And I think that's why we like being herbalists and not druggists.
Yes.
Because druggists, it's not about the relationship. It's about the drug, it's about the dose, it's about the effect. And herbalists, it's about the relationship.
Yeah.
Right? We like to be able to say, well, we can use this for you and we can use that for you. Sometimes, especially when I'm talking to MDs, I feel like the MDs are the kids who came to first grade with 8 crayons in a box, and the herbalists are the ones who had the 64 colors in their sharpener. We just have so many choices.
Right.
That do, like somebody says, well, what do you think? Should it be this or that or that? I say, well, let's talk about it and find out, what's around you? What works for you? What do you feel good with? What is the relationship that you keep coming back to?
Well, something that I have grief over. Give me a situation. A relative of mine comes as migraines. Oh, I tried feverfew once. Bought the thing.
The capsule say.
Tried a couple of days, didn't work. Or another person. I heard nettles are really good. I went to the store, bought a bottle. Hell, took a couple. Didn't work for me. Herbs don't work. Right. And it's like I wish I could just say, well, try. The stuff we're talking about. I guess I have a hard. I just wish
Well, again, people are confusing herbs with drugs.
Right.
And they're wanting them to look like drugs and to act like drugs. And even drugs don't act that fast.
Right.
Many of the drugs that are used, in psychotherapy take weeks and weeks before any effect is seen. The statin drugs, we don't expect to see an overnight change in cholesterol. The blood pressure drugs, we expect to wait weeks before anything happens. And herbs didn't work in 2 days. I'm like, oh, well, gee, gosh, you wouldn't even expect a drug to work that fast.
Right.
I also say to people, do you think your ancestors took herbs in capsules?
Right.
Especially when it comes to the nourishing herbs. Nourishment is limited by quantity. So if I said to you, hey, John, I decided I need more, good carotenes in my diet, so I'm going to eat half a teaspoon of carrots tonight. You'd laugh, right? You'd laugh, hi, Susan, half a teaspoon of carrots. That doesn't count. There's not even half a teaspoon of herb in a capsule. Right. So when I'm having people make a nettle infusion, they're using 1 ounce dried weight. That's the equivalent of a 1/4 pound of fresh nettle. That's a lot of nettle. That 1 ounce dry weight goes in a quart jar. We rehydrate it with a quart of boiling water, and that quart of nettle infusion then can have 1,000 or more milligrams of calcium in it. All right, something like 60,000 internationally equivalent units of vitamin A. Huge amounts of B vitamins, vitamin E. Just about every mineral you could want.
Right.
So, a whole bottle of nettle capsules is 1 ounce. And you can only get the nutrition from the nettle that's in the nettle. It's not like you can somehow magically put more nutrition in it if you put it in a capsule.
But then isn't it some more than the herbs too? Like when this person says, "Oh, the feverfew," but I'm like, "Well, your stress, your diet,
right? Right. Herbs. Well, that's that drug-like thing.
Yeah.
Just give me a pill to fix me.